here on America's Morning Headquarters. Going to get you to the mid-morning hours. Of course, walk you through this early week, playing out this week, and of course the weekend, which is ahead, which Jen, it's the Memorial Day holiday weekend.
I don't know what happened to this month, this year.
We have said that every month this year.
I don't know what's going on. Time is moving very fast.
You realize this as you get older and older, and they always used to tell us this, right? You get older, the time just gets...
Yeah, it moves faster. That's exactly what's happening. Cantori's like, he was standing over by the camera. He's like, yeah, you guys are right. Did you see this? This is a giant swirl of smoke and clouds.
Which is wild, right? Just diving down out of Canada. We've been watching again all of the issues with the wildfires still continuing there, and you can see that swirl mixed in with all the smoke diving on in. And of course, this has led to some problems here. This is not fun and games, right? I mean, a lot of air quality issues.
Air quality issues with some tough breathing in Montana. We're still watching the Dakotas, but you can see the smoke in the sky all the way to the northeast, including Pennsylvania, all the way to the south, including Tennessee and Texas. We're talk about how it's impacting us coming up.
And how about a swirl of a different kind, making some waves in the tropics? Yes, hurricane season, at least the Atlantic hurricane season, more than a week away. But we do have an area to watch. Right now, though, 10% chance of developing. So the chances are slim, but you got to watch these things.
I know it's early, but if you're not early, you're late kind of deal with the tropics, I feel like, because it's always early these days. Now, we'll get to that. We also want to dive into swimming, actually, some waves of a different kind out here. We're going to talk about the adult swim. How many of you know how to swim or not? We're going to give you some safety tips coming up this morning.
It's all about being safe in that water, right?
Well, Mother Nature is tossing your early week plans right now and inland. It's a wet week ahead, and we look back to what we just had. It's been a wet past 7 days. Pockets of about 3 to 5 inches. That's the yellow and the orange. You see that over here into South Carolina. Of course, that Wilmington area in North Carolina. But all throughout parts of the Panhandle of Florida, southern Alabama, we've seen some heavy rainfall. So the ground is saturated. Though I checked to see how we're doing compared to average. We're actually right about average, maybe a little above, a little below. So in terms of that, we're close, to on par. But we look at Tallahassee and Apalachicola and Panama City and Dothan, we're under a flood watch. So the rain we get this week could be just that heavy, and that's a concern. We bring in this boundary that stays here throughout the week. It's not, wavers a little north, a little south. We have some jet stream energy and upper level disturbance that comes in, especially today into tomorrow, and that's going to help enhance the chance for storms over this area. So watch the forecast today. You'll see some scattered showers popping, especially later on into the afternoon. Some will have thunder and lightning. Some will just be plain old rain. There'll be a combination of everything out there. We see that into your Tuesday continuing over the same area. So the beaches right along the Gulf Coast going to be tough going. Southeastern Georgia, we've got rain and showers as well. Northern Florida, we've got that going through Wednesday. Now, better chance you stay dry a little further south, but to the north, there's a lot of rain chances. Daytona up to St. Augustine, Gainesville, Florida, we've got that rainfall coming your way, and it is possible that we do see some flash flooding. Then tomorrow morning into Wednesday, we shift the attention for some of the heavy rainfall more to right here. Jacksonville up to Savannah, inland through South Georgia. The concern for heavy rain that could bring flash flooding. Now, the other place we got to keep an eye on storms is storms that we see over the next 2 days here, but we're going to keep an eye on Amarillo, Texas. Chance of storms today. We see that this afternoon. Then we get a break. Then we get into a pattern the rest of the week where we have some storm chances. It's an interesting pattern for the end of May as we look at this upcoming week. So this might be where you would expect thunderstorms this time of year. We often see them, into the Panhandle, into Texas, but they're really going to be confined right here into the Texas Panhandle, West Texas. That's where we'll see the energy coming in, upper levels to help instigate some of those thunderstorms. Through the later afternoon, early evening, we'll see these out here. Looks like damaging winds coming out of them will be the main threat, and there is that chance it forms a line of thunderstorms as we get into late tonight. So now we're going to keep an eye here. Abilene, maybe up to Wichita Falls. We'll see how far this gets into the overnight hours before it weakens. It looks like Dallas maybe get a chance of getting some early morning showers, but it doesn't look like much will hold together. Then we take a look at what goes on with the rainfall, some heavy at times. From that zone, parts northward will see rain heavy at times. That's why flooding and flash flooding is a possibility. And tomorrow's forecast, we watch for these storms in a very similar area, maybe just a little farther north and a little bit further to the east. That does include the risk for heavy rainfall in that. And by the time we get Tuesday into Wednesday, we will bring in Dallas more for that chance of heavier storms, which could bring the risk of flooding or flash flooding. All right, Alex, the tropics.
No, I never officially learned how to swim.
Can you swim?
Float, yes.
Yeah.
I can manage. But if you said, let's have a race out there,
yeah,
it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I think it's a life-saving skill.
It is. It's one of those things where I'm like, how did I never learn?
Yeah.
I need to do it.
Yeah.
Is it too late?
No. And you'll learn on the show today that it's definitely not too late. All right, we'll keep it going right here. See you next. Tracks of conditions to help you make outdoor plans. Especially up near the source of the fires there in Canada around Edmonton. It's not beyond unhealthy here. It's dangerous and hazardous to be outside. But some of that has been seeping down into the U.S. So I want to take you into some areas that have been impacted by the poor air quality. We've got some areas today with at least a moderate risk of bad air quality. Chicago, Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, Kansas City. And, I checked into this. For the most part, it is that particulate matter. So those fine particles in the atmosphere, which affects you with your breathing, but also can affect people with heart disease. So making sure that you are taking some precautions out there, changing out your air filters. Dallas, Houston, we've got unhealthy for sensitive groups. We've got moderate in Jackson, in Mississippi, New Orleans, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City as well. And in the West here, especially in Montana, we've got a lot of spots dealing with some of the poor air quality, and some alerts are up. Now, Billings, interestingly, does have good air quality. I double-checked, and it is good, but surrounding it are areas that don't have good air quality. Salt Lake City, Phoenix have some issues today. Sacramento, Los Angeles here, that zone also does as well. You can see this area where we have the air quality alert that is up for today. Now, it includes Billings, but also Great Falls and Glasgow and Miles City. This whole zone could see issues, especially in the afternoon. When that sun comes up, it gets worse because then you have ozone and particulate matter out there that can affect your breathing. So here are some tips. Stay indoors if possible, and if outdoors, you may want to consider using an N95 mask or a P100 respirator. If you're driving, make sure you set your AC on recirculate because you don't want to bring that outside air in. Pay attention to local advisories and check your air quality report. Also, it's talking especially to the folks up in Canada. If the smoke levels are too high, you may need to evacuate. Alex.
Well, how about originate going back to 1950?
All right. Always stressful getting into the holiday weekend. I know when there's something that could develop in the tropics. So we'll keep you apprised of what's going on. Take a look at some analysis of what's going on there right at this moment. But we also got to keep an eye on thunderstorms elsewhere. It's going to be a kind of wet week across the east.
It really is. It's one of those weeks to just have the rain gear handy because you'll need it at almost any time.
It's not that hot. It's, it'll, be summertime warm and humid,
right.
But, well, early summer.
Yes, not July.
Not July, right, yes. All right, but let's get into it all here with the storms out there right now. We actually have had a start to your day with some thunderstorms already in South Georgia. I'll look at the radar. We could see more throughout the day. Southern Alabama, southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, all the way down here through the parts of the peninsula. Not everywhere, but we've got some storm chances ramping up. Maybe around Lakeland, Orlando, you're in that zone. We'll keep an eye down towards Sebring, Florida as well. So a couple of thunderstorms out there at the moment. 2 in South Georgia. One in particular that we're a little more concerned about because there is a severe thunderstorm warning on it. Winds in excess of 60 miles per hour would be the main threat. I looked at the hail tracker to see if there's any real chance of that. It doesn't look like much. Maybe just south of Thomasville, there's a chance for some small hail briefly. But this does include in Thomas County, Boston and Thomasville. This goes until 9:45 local time. The storm is moving slowly to the east at 20 miles per hour. So it is dropping some pretty heavy rain since it's moving slow like that. Watching that for now. Plenty of moisture out there in this whole zone. You step outside, dew points in the low 70s. That is air that gives you a hug, the kind of hug that lasts too long, right? It is very sticky. And we have this front that is stuck here through the week, really. It's the early part of the week. And so with the moisture in place and the boundary here, we're going to be watching for some showers and storms to go. And what we'll really watch for is where are there boundaries that get left by maybe existing thunderstorms or thunderstorms from the day before, and where is the daytime heating building up the most. So that's where that destructive sunshine comes in. If it does get sunny, that's only going to add to the instability out there in the atmosphere. Watching that today, and we'll see some thunderstorms popping. We think more in South Georgia. It's possible, maybe around Valdosta. Tallahassee, it's possible for you. St. George Island, you've got some thunderstorms coming in today, maybe as we get through the evening. Gainesville to Jacksonville. And look at Melbourne, all the way down to West Palm. We could see some storms really firing up. Just a very humid atmosphere here across the south and east. Another spot to watch for thunderstorms right in the middle of the country. And it's never too late to learn. The American Red Cross is dedicated to teaching adults how to swim and stay safe in the water. Knowing this valuable tool can not only help save your life, but others as well.
And joining us now, talk to us a bit of why it is so important for adults to know how to swim.
Yeah,
it's great exercise. It's good for you mentally, too. So let's talk about maybe why adults decide to enroll in swim lessons as a grown-up.
Sure, absolutely. So we actually did.
Do we know of any reasons about, or some of the higher reasons why some of the adults just haven't learned to swim yet? Is there a main reason that has happened? I know there's several, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think a big one that comes.
Yeah. Now, what advice do you have for people who might be too embarrassed to admit they don't know how to swim and, how to seek out lessons?
Sure. So the red
Question for you, Dr. Ramos. What's the success rate for adults who end up trying to learn to swim?
Sure. Well, adults have an advantage.
Dr. William Ramos with the American Red Cross, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great conversation. I'm energized for a lot of people to learn how to swim.
Including myself.
I know, Alex.
I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. All right, don't forget our question of the day. Early, right? You get out there, you beat having to deal with the storms, and it's not so baking hot.
Yes. Most of the time you beat the crowds because a lot of people sleep in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nothing wrong with that. If you're on vacation, you want to do that, but it is nice early on the beach. We do want to look at, though, some of the issues that could pop up, maybe with rip currents. We've got some spots with at least a moderate risk there on the east coast of Florida and in spots in the southeast.
Yeah, absolutely. So watch those areas closely here as we head through the day. Certainly watch the lifeguard advice. Watch any flags that are flying out there on the beaches. Certainly be mindful of that. Water temperatures out there, we've certainly steadily seen them climbing over the last several weeks.
We've got it in mid-80s already. Look at some of the beaches here. I don't think a lot of people swim up there in the Big Bend area of Florida, but we're already in the mid-80s.
Yeah, and certainly warm there as you work your way southbound there on the west coast as well. All right, let's take a look at the forecast here for you. We'll start you off in Pensacola, mid-80s for the day, but that's a spot where we could see some thunderstorms fire up.
Yeah, so lightning is going to be the big risk here. Panama City Beach here, if you hear thunder, you're going to have to pack it in. We've got temps in the low 80s, and, we'll be watching for that chance of storms ramping up through the afternoon.
Absolutely. And then moving our way into the inland areas where the threat for some severe weather is in play for the day. From the Panhandle through the peninsula, watch this afternoon. Big storms that could fire up, damaging wind gusts, maybe some hail. Can't rule that out either.
All right, so our question of the day is this.
Good stuff. All right, St. George.
Yeah. Put it on the list.
Put it on the list.
Not too many people, though. We want to keep it nice and quiet.
Well, you're not helping that with doing this. All right, well, we're going to work our way westbound and say hello to the town of Vernal for the next several days. Comfortable, no chances for the rain issues to mess you up. Enjoy it, Vernal.
Weird spot to have it in Fort Myers. The air is pretty humid. You think of air to be a little drier.
A little drier, right.
Yeah.
I guess it can happen.
It can happen, obviously.
Clearly.
We saw it. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for choosing America's Morning Headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
That's right. The Weather Channel is going to help you plan out the day, the week, looking towards that Memorial Holiday weekend, which is this weekend, which is just crazy to think about, right? We're already at the unofficial start to summer.
April just began. Right in my mind, yes. All right, we'll get you through this week, though, here, because I know a lot of you have plans. We're also been watching some really interesting situations here in the atmosphere coming out of Canada. This is, I shared it on social media, and I just said, yuck.
Right.
This is a swirl of smoke.
That's it. And those fires that continue to burn there in Canada, of course, the fires produce the smoke, and they have been really causing problems over the last week or two. But look at that, diving down into the States, that big swirl just taking over here. It has really been an issue. Air quality all over the place in the hazy skies.
Yeah, the hazy skies you can see all the way to Pennsylvania, to Maine. We've seen it all the way down into Texas and Tennessee. That haze, some of it is wildfire smoke from Canada.
Wow. Well, how about another swirl of a different kind that is making some waves in the tropics? Hurricane season in the Atlantic, more than a week away, but there is an area that we are watching right now. They're just east of the Bahamas. National Hurricane Center giving it about a 10% chance of developing. We'll detail why that's the case and the prospects here down the road.
Yeah, and the name, if it does get that far. Also, we know the waters in the tropics are very inviting, right? I mean, look at this. Beautiful. But we're going to dive into some safety tips for swimming, in particular, the adult swim.
Yes.
Coming up. Looking at you, Alex.
Jen's going to get me to learn how to swim. That is a goal of mine here. Maybe not this year.
Oh, no, we're gonna ramp it up. We're going to ramp it up. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Mother Nature tossing here through the southeast. Everyone's had at least some rain. But some of you have had more than that, 3 to 5 inches in yellow, 5 to 8 in the orange. And I'll tell you what, it was right here. This is in the Wilmington area. It was a storm that just sat there. It was backbuilding. It was dropping heavy rainfall. It just didn't move, right? That's what we're worried about happening, perhaps especially in some of these areas that already have had some really heavy rainfall over the past week. I did a check, and we're actually running right about average for rain, Tallahassee and Mobile. So it's not like we desperately need rain, but this is the season where we start to get into this pattern pattern of showers and maybe thunderstorms. That's why flood alerts are up. Some of them could be heavy at times with the pattern we're in this week. Watching around Albany and Georgia, Valdosta, Tallahassee, Apalachicola, all in that flood watch here at least through Tuesday. The boundary that's in place is not really going anywhere this week, so that stays around. That's one focus. So much humidity in the atmosphere. And we have a disturbance coming in the jet stream. As that comes in through this area today, it's going to help trigger some more, or just be an additional help to trigger some thunderstorms. So there's things all at play right there, especially South Georgia, South Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, that I think will make it an increased chance of storms, especially through this evening. We see that in the forecast, right? We notice all the flashes of green pop up here into Florida. A lot of real estate gets into the rain chances. We see that into your even Wednesday. So keeping an eye on that concern for flooding and flash flooding with any of those storms that don't move too much and drop the heavy rainfall. Alex? Of storms is actually going to be damaging winds today in Amarillo, Texas, but there is a chance of hail. There almost always is this time of year right out here. We've got those thunderstorm chances today. We get a break Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're back into it Thursday and Friday with the chance of thunderstorms here. The pattern this week is interesting. I mean, this is an area that you would expect to get storms this time of year. We see that today, right through the afternoon, the Texas Panhandle. We'll keep an eye on storms developing across this zone. I think a lot of them will have these big, strong outflows that come out of them, and that will bring us some strong, potentially damaging winds out of the thunderstorms. We see that 5 or 6 o'clock-ish. Then as we get through the night, storms may form a line, and that's when you still have straight line winds, but it's a little more just linear in nature here in terms of what the storm shape will look like. Let's watch this through the overnight. How much of this holds together? Dallas, I know you're watching this like, oh, that's getting close. It looks like it's going to fall apart before it really gets to you in Dallas, but you certainly have the chance of getting some overnight thunderstorms there. They may or may not be severe, probably not. Now, rainfall could be heavy at times, and we see that today from the Texas Panhandle, parts of North Texas, all the way up through western Oklahoma into western Kansas, including Dodge City. Tomorrow, we bring back in another chance of storms right over almost the entire area, just nudging it a little further to the east. And so now we're getting more into play, Dallas. And by tomorrow into Wednesday, I think there's a better chance of getting into storms in Fort Worth and Dallas, and that could mean the risk for some heavy rain there. So what's going on this week is that we've got the moisture coming in through the week here, watching just the atmosphere at the mid to upper levels and the jet stream. You know, a lot of the energy is going to be up to the north, but we'll see some pockets of that come here into this area, and that will enhance the risk for some storms going severe. And that's why we keep an eye on different parts of the country, different times of the week. Watching you Wednesday into Thursday, you can see how just a smattering of activity right across this area. So that's really not changing much, pretty much all week long. Alex?
All right, you know, all eyes are turned to the area that we are watching right now, and is typical for this time of the year, a little closer to home.
But when they form closer to home, they more often have a better chance of impacting us.
This is true.
Closer to home. That's why we keep a close watch on it. You know, we are a week away from Memorial Day, and some folks can't wait. Interesting. I did a dive once in the Florida
how was it?
Springs. It was so interesting. Yeah. The water was nice. It was clear. It was warm. It was clean.
Can't beat that, right?
Can't beat that. I mean, it's hard to beat water like this.
Yes. Is that the real water?
Yes.
Or is that just a picture?
I think that's real.
Okay.
Well, it might be a picture, but it's a real picture somewhere. It might not be live, right?
That is looking gorgeous, though. Yeah. It's that time of the year where you just start dreaming about hitting up the beaches.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we'll go to Twitter. You can send us your comments. Alex is putting it on his bucket list to learn how to swim.
In fact, in the middle of breaks here, I've been looking up adult swim classes. I'm going to get there.
Earlier today, you said maybe next year, and now all of a sudden
but the look in your eyes, it was such a disappointing look that I'm. Let me get this done.
Does your son know how to swim, or is he learning?
He's learning as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So we should learn together. I guess that would make sense.
But it would be a good example for him.
This is true.
All right. Quality is incredibly tough up there in Alberta and actually around Edmonton here. It's the highest level, the hazardous category when it comes to air quality. Really don't even want to be outside at all. And even inside, you might want to think about evacuating to another spot. Now, in the lower 48, we have some concerns. The air quality has been getting up to some of those higher levels, not quite that bad. But in Great Falls and Glasgow, Miles City, we're under an air quality alert for today. Billings, I checked earlier, you had good air quality as reported, but it has the potential potential to go downhill, which is why we want to urge some caution out there. Stay indoors if possible. If outdoors, use an N95 or P100 respirator. If driving, you want to set your AC on recirculate so that you're not bringing in the outside air, because that's the unhealthy air. Pay attention to local advisories. Check your air quality report, and you may need to evacuate if smoke levels get too high. I think that's especially true for folks up in Canada, where today is actually a holiday for them. It's Victoria Day, but they're not really able to go out and enjoy it up here in this area because of the thick smoke. And you can see how it's been seeping down, of course, closer to Canada, Montana, the Dakotas, but all the way down through the plains into Texas, into Louisiana. It's at high levels. You probably can't smell it, or it's not affecting your breathing, but it is there and it's affecting your sky. So if you notice that all the way into the deep south, that is smoke from these fires. We've got 99 fires right now that are burning more than 4 million acres. It has really gotten bad in a hurry here over parts of Western Canada, especially. Now, we have some rain in the forecast, and there's some pockets of 2 to 3 inches. Guess it's possible we get maybe a little bit more, but the thing is, even this much rain won't be enough to put it out. It might just give the firefighters a little bit of help here, some short-term help, that is, Alex.
Yeah, we could use whatever there's no way around it. We are in it, even though we're not officially in the season. Of course, you can have systems before, you can have it after, but we are in it and keeping you aware of all the potential issues that we could face in the weeks and months ahead.
It's a pretty kind of unsettled pattern to look at across the east and the southeast over this next whole week, actually. So kind of trophy is the best way to describe it in the atmosphere.
It's a really good way to describe it, which means for you, just have the rain gear. You'll need it.
Exactly. I'm going to start with where we're going to storms right now. Actually, this morning we had a couple of warnings already that I've been following, and we're going to see more potential storms today. The main risk is going to be lightning with all of these storms, but there is the chance some of them go severe, like we've been watching this morning. So be ready to get warnings. Watching from Destin, maybe over towards Panama City, up to Dothan in southern Alabama, Tallahassee, Valdosta. We've all got the chance of storms, and down here through the peninsula as well, including around the theme parks, Orlando, Sebring, up to Lakeland. We've got thunderstorm risks out there. These have actually expanded a bit more. You see that here south of Albany in Georgia, and then this area, as it's been moving towards the south and east, now crossing over into Florida. Been watching that. The warning has been dropped, but still watching this thunderstorm cell out there right here. So that's around Folkston and just south of there. Remember, there was a severe thunderstorm warning on it that had tornado possible as the tag, and it was right in there. You kind of see how it took that shape for a while, that you were seeing a little bit of rotation, perhaps not enough to ever warrant a tornado warning, and the storm cell itself is weakening. But there's still lightning out there, so you're not walking your dog out there right now. We have more scattered activity expected because we have so much moisture in the atmosphere. It is so humid outside. Dew points are in the low 70s. You step outside and you're like, ugh, this is air that gives you a hug, and maybe a hug that lasts a little too long. The front is in place this week. It sticks around. It's going to mean some scattered showers out there, focused and along it. But in general, anywhere we have daytime heating, the sun is self-destructive these days because we get into that feeding into the instability. So if it's sunny, just know you might get some storms later on in the day, especially in those corridors that I highlighted for you, where we're going to be watching for just some enhancements in the atmosphere, like up around the front. And that happens to be in northern Florida, into the Panhandle and South Georgia. We'll see that especially through the afternoon. But even down here, all through central Florida, we've got those storm chances building up, and heavy rainfall will be another big concern that comes with them. So heads up here if you see any water-covered roadways. What about the storms here across the south, Alex?
Yes, swim.
And it's never too late to learn. The American Red Cross is dedicated to teaching adults how to swim and stay safe in the water. Knowing this valuable tool can not only help save your life, but others as well.
And joining us now, talk to us a bit of why it is so important for adults to know how to swim.
Yeah, it's great exercise. It's good for you mentally, too. So let's talk about maybe why adults decide to enroll in swim lessons as a grown-up.
Sure, absolutely. So we actually
do we know of any reasons about, or some of the higher reasons why some of the adults just haven't learned to swim yet? Is there a main reason that has happened? I know there's several, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think a big one that.
Yeah. Now, what advice do you have for people who might be too embarrassed to admit they don't know how to swim, and how to seek out lessons?
Sure. So
Dr. Ramos, what's the success rate for adults who end up trying to learn to swim?
Sure. Well, adults have an.
Dr. William Ramos with the American Red Cross, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great conversation. I'm energized for a lot of people to learn how to swim.
including myself.
I know, Alex.
I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. All right, don't forget our question of the day. You look up and you turn around away from the water, and then you see the clouds that are building up. If you're on the beach, you're like, hey, we're fine right now.
Saved by the sea breeze.
Exactly.
Not always, but sometimes. Now, today, we also have another issue out there, which could be the rip currents. There's a couple spots with high coastal Georgia, but more so moderate. And we've got that all the way from North Carolina down through Florida.
Yeah, so watch those areas getting in the water. Could be dangerous at times. We certainly noticed the water temperatures climbing a bit here over the last several weeks. We're now talking mid-80s here for you, right around the Big Bend area. Temperatures there in southwest Florida, we were approaching 90 in some of those areas.
It seems above average, actually.
Very, very warm times there. All right, how about we phenomenal? And we have to say,
I do love it.
Kudos to Jen for some of those pictures because they came out really nice.
Thank you to St. George. Now, we do have the chance of thunderstorms, especially today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, but looks good Thursday into Friday.
All right. Well, how about we head to...
But rain can happen anytime.
It sure can, and it definitely did there. But, hey, everyone had fun. Seems like no one minded, except for, it was 1 o'clock in the morning when they finished up.
Well, and the Nashville one went all the way. That was in Boston. I don't know how late that one went. I don't think they had a lot of delays.
I don't think it delayed because there was no lightning, which was key. That was the key, right? No lightning. Just like golf, right? You can play in the rain, but when the lightning starts.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for choosing America's Morning Headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
That's right. We're trying to help you plan out your events here for today and beyond, heading towards the Memorial Holiday weekend, that unofficial start to summer. It's basically here now, right? Which is just insane. But we've been watching a lot, including what's been going on north of the border, which is now pushed into our territory.
It's actually a holiday in Canada today. It's Victoria Day, honoring Queen Victoria's birthday. And their plans are all disrupted by this smoke, which ended up wrapped into a cyclone, which swirled its way down here into the Dakotas this weekend.
And there you can see it. It's really brought a lot of that wildfire smoke, causing air quality issues, the hazy skies, and it's pretty widespread across the northern tier. But even south, we've seen some of the smoke.
You can see it. We're going to show you on satellite just how far south you can see it. Well, we also have a swirl of a different kind and making waves in the tropics. Hurricane season is a little more than a week away, but we've got an area to watch out there already.
Yeah, right on cue, right? 10% chance of seeing this develop. We'll show you why the chances right now are pretty minimal. But of course, we'll be watching more entities as the weeks and months roll as we get into the season.
And speaking of the tropics, you know, this time of year, the waters look so inviting, don't they? I mean, look at this beautiful scene out of Nassau.
Jen's ready to hop on the plane.
I'd like to just dive into that like Mary Poppins. I would. But I can swim. And we're going to talk about swimming, adult swimming here. And Alex, I'm not pointing fingers at you.
No. I welcome it. Yes, I do not know how to swim, proficiently, but it's one of those things that I'm convinced now that maybe this summer I give it a shot.
Well, we have a guest on the show today to talk more about adults learning how to swim. So stay tuned for